Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, ACT, is a model for helping people in various situations. It is a system that operates mainly without diagnosis and instead treats the hindrances to a flexible and value-driven life. This video is a set of short points to explain the differences between the factors that lead to a rigid or flexible personality. The topics are set in a fixed order. The first of the two alternatives for each position in the hexaflex is likely to promote rigidity. The second of two options is expected to encourage flexibility. So, welcome, and I hope you will have a learning experience watching this video. ACT is a complex system, but the good part is that it works. If you are ready, here is the first part. Cognitive fusion versus cognitive diffusion. Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, ACT, is a therapeutic approach that focuses on helping individuals live a more flexible and values-driven life despite painful thoughts or emotions. One of the core concepts in ACT is the distinction between cognitive fusion and cognitive diffusion. Here are some key points on these two concepts. Cognitive fusion. So, let's try to define cognitive fusion. Cognitive fusion occurs when individuals become entangled or fused with their thoughts, viewing them as literal truths about reality. In this state, ideas are often taken at face value without questioning their validity. Fusion often leads to behavior driven by the content of thoughts, even when those thoughts are unhelpful or inaccurate. This can lead to avoidance of experiences, rigidity in behavior, and getting stuck in negative thinking patterns. Let's try some examples to make it easier to understand. I'm a failure. If someone is fused with this thought, they might avoid challenges because they believe they'll inevitably fail. I'm not lovable. A person fused with this belief might avoid close relationships, fearing rejection. Fusion tends to result in behavioral inflexibility, as individuals act strictly based on their thought content rather than in alignment with their values or the present moment. This can also be described as rigidity. A small case study. A person, let's call him Ted, has the thought that no matter what I do, they will discover who I really am, and then I'm totally screwed. This is the thought that has become Ted's truth. He is sure about this. It is just a fact. When he meets people, Ted tends to look down. If there is a challenge in front of him, he doesn't take it. Because he knows in his mind that the only thing that will happen is that he will fail, and when he fails, everybody will discover. So he stays quiet, and he stays safe. He cannot be discovered as long as he doesn't expose himself. The fear of exposure becomes Ted's directive. He is locked in with his mind's acceptance of this fact. At this point, Ted is not aware of his shortcomings. He feels lost and out of pace with his surroundings. Here is a small challenge. Check how you behave in different situations and see if you have thoughts about yourself that hinder you from taking part in activities or hinder you from exposing yourself. Cognitive diffusion. Now, we introduce a word that isn't really a word. Diffusion. Cognitive diffusion is a process where individuals learn to defuse or detach from their thoughts, seeing them as transient mental events rather than absolute truths. It's about changing how one interacts with or relates to ideas, not necessarily changing the thoughts themselves. Diffusion can help people reduce the impact and influence of unhelpful thoughts, leading to more flexible behavior and alignment with personal values. To make this happen, ACT uses different interventions. We use metaphors such as, thoughts are like clouds in the sky, just passing by. Or thought can be placed on lives on a river, and they are watched as they float by. With this technique, the goal is to create a distance between the thoughts and the person. Observing thoughts from a distance gives the opportunity to evaluate and choose, and to see thoughts as they really are, thoughts passing by. Some use mindfulness exercises, observing thoughts without judgment, seeing them come and go. Mindful exercises help with the incorporated meaning of thoughts. If we test the mind's use of self-talk, we will find that a major part of thoughts is negative self-judgments. When using a non-judgmental observation, the differences between a single thought and the thought containing judgment can be observed. Another method is labeling thoughts, e.g., I'm having the thought that I'm a failure. The labeling will show the difference between a thought and what, until now, has been considered a truth. The reason these are steps in increased flexibility is the following. Through diffusion, individuals often see thoughts as just that, thoughts. They can then decide whether or not to act on them based on their values and the present situation. Again, here are some examples to explain the process. Recognizing I'm a failure as a thought can free someone to take on challenges, even if there's a risk of failing. Seeing I'm not lovable as a fleeting belief might help someone remain open to forming close relationships, regardless of fear. Let's get back to Ted. The last we heard was that he hid. He stayed quiet. He didn't take any chances and thought he could avoid discovery. What if we could change the character of his thoughts? Not make them go away. Just help Ted acknowledge the thoughts and realize that they were just thoughts and mind tricks that played in his mind and didn't occur in real life. Then, he could take some small risks and then more significant steps. And even though his thoughts were there, he could direct his energy towards a challenge. The steps out of his believed truths may be scary for Ted, but even a small step in the direction of his values will give him more courage to take the next and maybe bigger step on the next occasion. In ACT, the aim isn't to eliminate or change difficult thoughts, but to change our relationship with them. By fostering cognitive diffusion, individuals can lead lives with more freedom, flexibility, and alignment with their values rather than being dictated by their internal narratives. Ted's story is only one example of situations where fused thoughts can become a problem. Feel free to share your thoughts on this in the comment section below. This is the end of the first part. In the next part of this series, we will look into the terms self as content versus self as context. Check video 2 in this series and meet Ted again.